A 12-year-old boy, a loaded gun, and an innocent girl shot dead.
You took out the clip, you pointed it at Lizzy. She said, "Get that thing out of my face," and you pulled the trigger.
He did not pull the trigger. The gun was defective.
The jury's verdict, murder, but was their sentence too soft?
Why her? Why her?
Is any justice possible in this tragic story? Hear both sides. You decide. I don't think it's an understatement to say that it's become hip to hate judges. We're all sick and tired of verdicts that allow crooks and creeps to go free. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the program. You're about to get the latest dose of shocking verdicts, but our first story, I must confess right off the top, is as tough for me to judge as it must have been for the man who presided over the case, the man or woman who presided over the case. It is a tragic story of two 12-year-olds from Texas and a gun. Last August, this 12-year-old, Jonah Iverson, shot and killed 12-year-old Lizzy Rivera to death. By all accounts, Lizzy was a conscientious, a lovely girl who worked hard in school. She got good grades. She did absolutely nothing to bring about the tragedy that resulted in her death. Not that Jonah, who has since been convicted of felony murder, was a hardcore, bad gang kid. Jonah comes from a broken family. His mom, Raquel, sits alongside him right at this very moment in the Webb County Juvenile Center in Laredo, Texas. His dad, Gary, who had not seen the kid for 2 years before the killing, joins us here in our New York studio, as do Sabino and Bertha Rivera, the parents of the murdered child. Let me start, before I tell you what the judge has ultimately decided in this case, let me start right with the 12-year-old, right with Jonah himself. Jonah, did you know Lizzy?
Yes.
Was she a friend of yours?
Yes.
Did you know her well? Did you like her?
Well, she was just a friend that I knew from school, but she was a good friend.
She was a good friend, okay. Tell us what happened that day. Tell us how you came to have a gun in your school.
Well, Albert brought the gun to school, and we followed the girls to the bathroom. Albert took out the clip and gave me the gun, and I went in, and to scare him, and I went in to point it at Lizzy. Then she said to move, and I showed her that there was no clip, and then I pointed it back at her, and the gun went off.
The gun went off, Jonah, and Lizzy fell dead.
Yes.
Why did you follow them into the girls' room?
To scare them.
What were you scaring them for? What was that all about? Why?
Just to play around.
You were playing around with a real gun, Jonah?
Yes.
Is that the way you play around?
Yes.
You say the clip was removed, so there was
Yes.
still a bullet in the cartridge. Is that what happened in the chamber?
Yes.
Did you check the gun?
No, I just took out the clip.
You took out the clip, you pointed it at Lizzy. She said, "Get that thing out of my face," and you pulled the trigger.
No, I showed her that there was no clip.
Yeah, and?
And then I pointed it back at her, and then the gun went off.
The gun went off by itself, Jonah?
Yes.
How did you feel? I know you're 12 years old. I know you're not a bad kid, or you weren't a bad kid. How did you feel when that child fell down at your feet bleeding?
No, I was scared.
Scared? Did you feel sorry?
Yes.
What was the first thing you did when you saw her fall down?
I ran
Where did you run?
to my house.
And who's the first person you spoke to?
My mom.
Your mom, Raquel, sits alongside you. Raquel, what was the first thing that your boy said to you when he came running into the house panic-stricken?
He walked into the house, stormed in there looking very out of breath, distraught, scared, looking gray. And he kept saying, "Mom, there was an accident, call someone. My friend is hurt." He kept repeating, there were no bullets in the gun. It wasn't loaded. it went off. Where did the bullet come from? Mom, call somebody. She's laying on the floor. She's bleeding. I tried to get him to slow down and tell me something a little more coherent. He was telling me bits and pieces, and he was crying and screaming, and I picked up the phone and called 911 and told them what I could gather from what he was saying. He kept telling me, asking me, how did the gun shoot with no bullets? How did it shoot with no bullets? And he kept telling me to call someone. After that, the police came to the door, and they took him away and told me that I couldn't go with him. They searched the house for any weapons or anything like that, and when I went to the detention center, they told me I couldn't see him except on Thursdays, and I didn't talk to him until a few days later. And we hadn't told him that Lizzy had passed away. He thought that she had gotten help. And then in the courtroom during the hearing, he found out the hard way that Lizzy had passed away, and he turned gray again and turned to me and said, "Mom, you didn't tell me." And I said, "Well, it's true, son." And he said, "Mom, she was a friend of mine. I can't bring her back now." And he felt like it was his fault.
Excuse me a second, Rachel. Jonah is in 6th grade, as Lizzy was.
Yes.
A 6th grader. Take another look at him, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at a kid who is now convicted on a felony murder rap. Here he is, 6th grader. What is he, Rachel? 4'2", 4'3", 4'4", something like that?
About that.
Five.
And Gary, his dad, who was separated, I guess, or divorced, is it?
Divorced, yes.
Divorced. You hadn't seen your son for 2 years?
Right.
Why so long, Gary?
I was tied up and couldn't get away most of the time.
How were you informed that your child had shot and killed a 12-year-old? Another 12-year-old?
How did I feel?
How'd you get informed? Who told you? And how?
My daughter and my ex-wife called me.
And your reaction?
Well, at first, I found it hard to believe, but then, I mean, I realized that nobody would say anything like that unless it was true. And my first thought was for the family of the little girl and the little girl.
Did you ever speak to the family of the little girl?
I tried to.
You want to try right now?
Well, I'll say the same thing I said to them when I got on the stand, that I was very sorry for what had happened, and that I know words are, what words can you say? You know, when someone loses a child, that's got to be the worst thing in the world. And if I could do anything to bring her back, I would.
All right. Do you believe that the parents of Lizzy Rivera, who I don't think is related to me, they may very well be, but do you think that they were vindictive or vengeful toward your son?
I sure do.
Well, tell us why, Gary. Before I get to Sabino and Bertha, tell us why you feel that.
Well, I feel that way because in the first place, when I found out about it, I wasn't certain exactly what the details were. And when I went to Laredo, I talked to Jonah. He told me the story. He told me what happened, how that this other kid had brought the gun to school, had taken the clip out. He was the one that had instigated, let's go jack the girls, was what he said.
That Albert, this fellow Albert?
Albert said that to Jonah.
Was Albert convicted of anything?
No, Albert was given immunity from prosecution to testify against Jonah.
How old is Albert?
Albert was a year older, a year or two older.
Mm-hmm.
Albert's 14 right now.
So your son pointed the gun, by his own admission, at Lizzy Rivera's head.
He sure did.
And pulled the trigger.
No, he did not pull the trigger. He did not pull the trigger. The gun was defective and had gone off prior to this. In fact, on the Saturday, this happened on Tuesday, these two boys had the gun for about 4 or 5 days. And there were a whole lot of things that had happened during those 4 or 5 days. One of the things was on the Saturday before the shooting, the little boy took the gun to the school to show it to another friend who was on the football team. And the little boy testified in court that when he took the gun and picked it up, the gun went off. And they asked him, well, did you pull the trigger or anything? He said, no, I did not pull the trigger. It just went off.
Take another look at the kid. Here's Jonah. He's 12 years old. He's a 6th grader, although he's going to miss 6th grade. How long is he sentenced?
Till he's 21.
Till 21. So for the next 9 years, this youngster, unless, as I understand it, there is a review at the age of 18, unless the court at the age of 18 changes its judgment, Jonah's youth, essentially, will be spent behind bars. But contrast that, this is where I want you to understand the dilemma of the judge. Contrast that with the loss of these people. Here are Sabino and Bertha. Their child won't be back at the age of 21. Their daughter won't get a review at the age of 18. Their daughter is buried now. She's dead. They fought long and hard to see Jonah where Jonah is today. What would you have done? What would you have had the judge do? We'll speak with these parents who have suffered so grievously. Parents on both sides of this tragedy. We'll talk more about the judge's shocking verdict. I'll introduce a woman to you I consider one of the great lawyers of our country. Shocking verdicts, this case and others, the focus of this edition of Geraldo.
I'm very sorry that you did, and I would feel the same way.
About it?
But I'm sick of you. I'm sick of you. I'm sick of this mess.
It was a tough case for both sides. We're talking about 2 children.
Hours after Lizzy Rivera died, her parents knew who killed her. 12-year-old Jonah Iverson admitted it, saying the shooting was an accident. Still, prosecutors took the case to trial under the term felony murder. If they could prove Jonah brought the gun to school, a felony, they could find him guilty of murder without naming a motive. Jonah's lawyer was Oscar Peña.
The boy had been told that the bullets were taken out of the pistol, and he believes that, then that is a defense.
You never, ever point a gun to anyone.
Still, eyewitnesses told the court Jonah didn't bring the gun on campus. No felony, no case, some said. But the charge did go to the jury. Jonah, not the boy who brought the gun on campus, was found guilty.
The message that we sent out was that if you're smart enough to tuck your way out of a problem, you may be able to do so, because the kids that brought the gun to school, nothing happened to them. They walked.
Here's the youngster, Jonah, the 12-year-old, now stands convicted of felony murder, sentenced to spend the rest of his childhood behind bars with a possible review at the age of 18. Jennaphr, Linn, before I get to the parents of Lizzy Rivera, what was the climate in Laredo? Jennaphr Linn, the star reporter for KGNS.
It was a mixed emotion, really, because what happened was the prosecutor chose to prosecute this case under a term, as I mentioned, felony murder, which means they had to prove that Jonah brought the gun on campus.
Or committed some other felony.
Correct. Their felony that they chose was bringing the gun on campus, weapons prohibited charge. What happened was every single witness, there was 4 boys that went on campus along with Jonah. Every single one of those kids said no, Jonah didn't bring the gun on campus, which meant they didn't have a felony, which in normal courts or in some courts in Texas means they can't even get to the murder charge. However, there's a young girl. She's died. She's not coming back, a student. She played the clarinet. She was in band practice. Very big family. There was 4 sisters that all missed her. She was the baby of the Rivera family. However, this child probably was not prosecuted. Some people say it was a defective verdict because there was no felony proven.
Was there a lynch mob mentality?
Absolutely, absolutely. This young girl died, and I mean, you've seen her picture. She's beautiful. She's a little girl. And of course, no one got to see Jonah. What happened was the judge in the case put a gag order on the family, the lawyers, and so basically we couldn't talk to them. So no one knew Jonah's case. The prosecutor in this case was running for re-election. So of course, she could get her sound bites out in kind of working through like this is off the record and other means. So the parents were absolutely barred from speaking with us, although the prosecutor...
Before we go another step, were you motivated by a desire for vengeance? You tell us, Sabino.
No, not vengeance, Geraldo. Justice. Our daughter did nothing wrong. She did not deserve this. Before I go any further, Jonah and my daughter were not friends. This was their third day in school. Acquaintances, maybe, but not friends. They didn't hang out together. They didn't talk. As for the father, he said he was tied up for 2 years. He could never see his son. He admitted at one of the court hearings that he was a drug user.
Oh.
And
that's a lie.
All right,
and that's just another one of the lies.
Let's not get off the point here.
That's just another one of the lies that the Riveras have been telling. They've been telling lies since the very beginning of this thing.
It's on file.
They have gone to the newspaper. They went to the international Spanish television station. Okay. They told everybody in the world that Jonah shot Lizzy to be the leader of a gang, which was not true. It was a total lie.
What was he doing hanging around with kids with the gun anyway?
It was the third day of school, Geraldo, and he didn't even really know these kids. These kids had this gun for 5 days. The day before, this kid who had the gun told Jonah he had the gun, and he wanted Jonah to go shoot it that day. And Jonah said no, he had to go
Why
home.
did your son point the gun at the head of this child?
He was playing around. I don't know, why do 12-year-olds do the things they do? I can tell you why you shouldn't, or why even a 15 or a 14 or a 13, but when you're talking about 12, they do some pretty crazy things sometimes.
This is Laredo, Texas. Where were you living, Gary?
I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas.
But you could have made it at least once or twice over 2 years.
I could have, but the circumstances that involving what I was going through at the time, I could not get away.
Do you
from
bear
my
any
job.
responsibility for Jonah's mindset, whatever it was, on the day he pointed that gun at this child and she died?
Well, he's my son, of course.
Rachel, would you have had an easier time with Jonah if you and Gary were communicating?
We were communicating.
We were communicating, and that's not the thing. Kids are curious, and sometimes they don't realize the dangers the way an adult does. He assumes that because the gun is not loaded, that nothing's going to happen with him. It just, maybe if we taught our kids more about guns, I never even showed him a gun.
But Jonah, let me go back to Jonah. Why were you trying to scare her? Were you showing off to your buddy, to Albert and the other kids?
Yes, I was just playing around.
Were you doing it because you wanted to get into a gang?
No.
Why? Why? Just playing around doesn't cut it, Jonah. Why? What were you trying to show, that you were a big man, a brave man?
No, just playing around.
But usually you don't go in the ladies' room and, you know what I mean?
Let me explain something to you, Geraldo. In the first place, this ladies' room, this bathroom, was in a building that was away from the main school. It was an outside bathroom, and it was unsupervised. And kids had been going in and out of those bathrooms all the time. They went in there and smoked, both the boys and the girls. So it wasn't like some secret sanctuary where she ran to get away from him. It wasn't, that's the way it was painted, but it wasn't like that at all.
Okay.
Yep.
Hold it. Bertha?
Yes.
We haven't heard from you yet. Can you tell us? I want you not even to remember a single word that's been said on this program. I'm just asking you to remember how you felt when the jury came back and said that Jonah was guilty of felony murder. Tell us your reaction.
Well, I thought it was going to be more years, not 4 or 5 years. You know, I'm not happy with the sentence.
No, she wanted
You
blood.
thought he got off too easily?
Yes. And that's
Yeah.
what they're trying. Their parents, they're trying.
Well, go ahead. Tell us more, Bertha, what you mean. You think his parents now are trying to get him off easily?
Yes.
And you think that's wrong? You have to tell us. You
Yeah,
have to
they're
talk.
wrong. Because well, they're fighting for their son, but they have to realize that their son, he's a criminal. He killed my daughter. He killed my daughter.
For no reason at all. We always ask ourselves, why her? Why her? Now, they want to portray him as a nice boy,
Yeah.
when in fact, 3 months earlier, there's a girl by the name of Margie in Laredo. He also pointed a gun at her, a BB gun, mind you, but still a gun. And he pulled the trigger. He asked her to do something which she didn't want to do.
Nancy Grace is the most successful prosecutor in the country. Aside from being an elegant and gracious lady, she has tried over 50 cases in Fulton County, Atlanta, Georgia, never lost one. I've asked her to come not as a prosecutor today, but to be, in essence, our judge. And I'm going to ask her, to the extent that she can, to sit in judgment of a shocking verdict. More than a shocking verdict, it is a horrible tragedy that has devastated the lives of two families. Shocking verdicts continue. Stay tuned.
If you have a comment about this show or have a show idea, you can call our interactive phone lines at 1-900-8-VIEWER. All calls 99 cents a minute. We'll be right back.
Shocking verdicts. Our focus? Yeah.
What I want to know is, everybody's talking about the gun. Where did he get this gun from? Where did he and his friends get the gun from?
Jennaphr, do you know?
Yeah, he got it from one of the other kids that brought it on campus. One thing, Geraldo, that's really important to emphasize is you keep asking Jonah, how could he do this? What does this have to do with peer pressure? Jonah lives in a community. Look at him. He's white. He looks innocent. He looks young. He lives in a community that's 98% Hispanic.
I was going to say the cadence of his voice is nothing at all like his ethnic background. He
Correct.
has the cadence of a Hispanic inner city
Yes,
person.
and he's trying to fit in. He's trying to fit in with people who have gang members for older brothers.
Did he once ask his parents to change his name to Jose? Did I hear that?
Yes, he did. He asked his parents to change his name to Jose, and the school that he goes to is in the heart of, I hate to even say this, gangland. There's guns near that campus. There's drug dealing going on. People are killed and arrested in that area regularly.
Okay. Now, Laredo, I don't know if you know it, I've been there many times. It's a border community. It is really one of the boom towns in America. Population is only 150,000, but that's up from 30,000 just a few years back. And it has a lot of the problems that many rapidly expanding cities do, especially a border-type community. Now, Bertha, you wanted to say something before I went on with the audience questions? Go ahead, honey.
Well, what can I say? I lost my little girl. She got a lot of dreams. She wanna be a lawyer. She wanna go, to college. She won't be able to go to a prom. She was a beautiful daughter.
Now, Rachel, when you hear another mother's anguish like that, what's your response?
I feel for her. If it were my son that weren't here anymore, I would feel the same way she does. My son right now is just existing anyway. I'll feel a loss of him for many years. I didn't know Lizzy. I wish I could take the pain away. I wish I could bring Lizzy back. Jonah has told me, why is she gone? Why is it my fault? Why? I can't answer any of that.
Jonah, have you ever apologized to the Riveras?
No.
Have you ever bragged about killing her?
Did you ever brag about killing her?
No.
Do you know Jonah? He was
Yes.
there with you about 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
He was there for robbery or something like that.
Yes.
You were bragging to him how you shot my daughter, how she fell down, how he looked.
Yeah, there we go, some more lies now. Just
No,
go
it's
ahead
not.
and keep on.
Ask
I'm
him.
sick of
You
this.
can ask him. He
You
can
know,
tell
I'm
you.
very sorry that you lost a little girl. I'm very sorry that you did. And I would
Why
feel
does
the
he
same
keep
way.
bragging about it?
But I'm
Ask
sick
him.
of you.
He can
I'm
tell
sick
you.
of you. I'm sick of this mess. I really
You're sick
am.
of it. How
That's
do you
right.
think we feel?
That's right. I'm sick of it.
Yeah, how do you think we feel?
Okay, hold it.
It was an accident.
Gentlemen,
an
It's not an
accident is
accident.
an accident.
Gentlemen, I
He
ask
followed
you.
her into
Jonah
the
never
restroom.
meant to hurt anyone.
Gentlemen, I ask you both, please. Nancy, together we have argued and relitigated many controversial cases, obviously the Simpson case amongst them. This seems to me one of the most perplexing and difficult. I don't know how a judge could or should have responded. What's your feeling?
Well, number one, Geraldo, this was not a judge's finding of guilt. A jury listened to all the facts and evidence, and they decided it was a felony murder. It was not the judge's decision. Then the judge sentenced according to guidelines. And what I'm hearing here today is the father and the son trying to blame everybody else. Now, wait a minute.
I'm going to ask you to hold the reaction.
Who am I
finish this
trying
up.
to blame?
Now, if I could just finish, sir.
Sure.
Number one, it's the judge's fault. It's the kid's fault that brought the gun onto campus. It's the DA's fault because she's running for re-election. It's everybody's fault. It's the girl's parents' fault. It's his fault. He pulled the trigger. Boom.
That's not what he said.
Well, that's
no
what
one
the
said he
jury
pulled the
said.
trigger.
And, sir, I noticed that you would not allow your son to answer that question. You butted in and would not let him answer whether he bragged to his co-inmate in jail.
Well, let him
when
answer
Lizzy's
it.
parents asked. I'd be really interested to hear
I'm
that.
sure he didn't.
Jonah, do you know a fellow named Juan Cruz?
Oh, yes.
Was he in that facility with you recently?
Yes.
Was he in your cell or in your area with you?
Yes.
Did you spend time chatting with him, talking with him?
Sometimes.
Okay. Is it possible that you said something about the shooting to Juan Cruz?
Yes.
What did you tell him?
He asked me what happened, and I told him what I told you.
When you told him what had happened, did you tell him maybe in a way that was bragging a little bit?
No.
What did you say? Tell me to the extent that you remember what you said.
He asked me what did it look like, and I said it looked bad.
Well, you said more than that, Jonah. Tell us.
That it was an accident. And I told him just like I told you.
Did you tell him what it looked like?
Yes.
What'd you say? I want your words. What'd you say?
Told him that her head just moved to the side and she fell, but I didn't see her fall.
When you told him that, were there tears in your eyes?
That what?
Were there tears in your eyes when you told him that sad story?
Yes.
You didn't have a smile on your face, did you, or did you?
No.
Why did you tell the Riveras that you were bragging about it?
I don't know.
Is he lying?
Yes.
All those kids that testified
In
against you?
regards to Mrs. Rivera?
Go ahead.
May I?
Boy, I'm telling you what.
Jonah, did you send your regards to Mrs. Rivera? Through him. Still bragging.
Jonah, did you tell him to say hi to Mrs. Rivera?
Yes.
Why'd you do that?
Just to say hi.
This boy has no conscience at all.
So she wouldn't be mad.
Mad.
I don't know, Nancy. I don't know. I mean,
I tell you,
he's a baby.
It's incredibly emotional, and I've had cases similar in that young offenders, juvenile offenders. And I'm sure the prosecutor's heart was not made of stone, because how can you not feel badly for the young man but compare that to the loss of the child? But the whole point is to seek the truth. What happened, and the jury returned a verdict.
Kevin Kearse, you're not here for this story, but I wonder what your opinion is.
Well,
you're a defense attorney.
She was right when she said that the jury is the protector of an accused, in the sense that if the facts demonstrate something other than the crime charge, then the jury should have found him not guilty. So I don't know if the sentence was a mandatory sentence or not.
No.
But if it wasn't mandatory, then certain mitigating circumstances should be considered.
Well, it could have been life in prison,
well, yeah,
but he apparently didn't get life.
He was facing up to 40 years.
Well, when you sentence a juvenile,
less than the maximum.
When you sentence a juvenile, anytime you deal with juveniles, then there's certain considerations you give with juveniles.
Right.
Here are two parents, Deborah and Richard. The court, in no uncertain terms, made them pay for the crimes of their 15-year-old. Their story when we come back.
I got to the point where I didn't even want to go out with her because I got tired of people talking about it, pointing at us, staring.
She was really a habitual delinquent. Shocking verdicts. We've done this one before, although we have never had a case this difficult. There, the mother tethered by like a handcuff kind of device to her 15-year-old daughter, Tonya, who went from being a straight-A student to a truant. Charges against Tonya, the 15-year-old, ranged from grand larceny to shoplifting. But before the youngster was sentenced to jail, the family court judge, he made an unusual ruling. He said that the child had to be tethered to the mom. We'll get to their story in 1 second. I just have some comments on this incredibly provocative, tragic story of two 12-year-olds. We'll get to it. Yes.
Hi, Geraldo. I think Jonathan's parents are covering up for him. I would like to send Jonathan, I would like to send my sympathy out to the little girl that was killed.
Nancy.
Yeah.
What kind of person will emerge 9 years later from that facility? What can we expect?
Well, you know, Geraldo, you're telling me to look at him, and I have been observing him very carefully, and I haven't seen 1 ounce of remorse. He sounds like he's reciting a story. But he'll definitely come out a much more hardened criminal, I'm sorry to say, but that does not discount what he did to this girl.
Remorse for what?
But Gary, remorse for a death.
Somebody.
Well, yeah, he did kill somebody, but you got to realize that. Try to look at things through the mind of a 12-year-old.
Someone is dead.
Oh,
your child did it.
See,
where were you? Where was the mother?
You've just
what
come
were you
to that
doing for your child?
You've just come.
And now you want your child walking on the street? Are you not?
No, wait a minute.
Yes.
You've just come to that realization today. See, I've been facing this for 7 months. 7 months I've seen Jonah taken in, put in the detention center, brought before the court 34 times.
Someone's head and the gun goes off.
That's right.
The ground, the sidewalk, yeah, not someone's head.
I'm not saying that was a smart thing to do, to point a gun at somebody.
Something wrong. Help him.
What I'm trying to tell you is that it was an accident.
We are not going to resolve this, but you understand the dilemma now. You want to say something, Bertha? Go ahead.
Yes, I have 7 months and 4 days without seeing my daughter, okay? In the mornings, I don't want to even, open my eyes because I know I don't have Lizzy with me. They do have their son with them, right? I don't have Lizzy with me.
He's complaining he's 7 months, he hasn't seen him. We'll never see her for the rest of our life.
I will never see Lizzy again. They don't understand that he killed my daughter. I mean, I don't understand.
We must take a break.
I would like to know, where's your daughter now?
She got committed to juvenile prison. She got 6 to 12 months. I thought the judge was going to let her go.
Shocking verdicts. One involving this mother and daughter, the daughter, a 15-year-old truant, ordered pending incarceration to remain 24 hours a day, including sleep time, tethered to her mom. They went to school together. They did everything together. They went to the mall together. The mother joins us now, Deborah. Driven to such distraction and humiliation, she even had a prescription drug overdose behind us. So, Deborah, was that unfair for the court to rule you in some manner responsible for the deeds of your 15-year-old daughter?
Yes. I didn't commit the crime. She did.
What was the theory of the court?
I'll let Kevin answer that.
Kevin?
Well, I think the theory or the policy behind tethering is to be a cost-effective way of detaining a child.
Richard, at some point, because Deborah became ill, you came out of the Navy, you took a leave, so you would be tethered to your stepdaughter?
Right.
What's your beef?
Well, when they first sentenced Tonya to this tethering, it was on December 7th, and we didn't go back to court until February 13th. And during that time, at first it was just my wife tethered to Tonya, and then it was the two of us were allowed to be, you know, swapping off and on between the two of us tethered to Tonya. And then when my wife went in the hospital, it was changed to just me.
It was humiliating.
Yes.
Deborah, tell us from your own words.
It was embarrassing, you know, because she was tethered right around Christmas time. We all went, you know, shopping around Christmas time. The malls and the stores are all packed, people with points there. I got to the point where I didn't even want to go out with her.
Nancy?
Did she have the alternative of being in juvenile home rather than being tethered to y'all?
Yes.
So y'all chose for her to be tethered as opposed to juvenile detention, correct?
Well, see,
so what's the problem?
I like to. Can I interject something?
When he first said...
Can I interject something to they were given an alternative, but you must understand that we have a shadowing program in South Carolina. And a parent can be ordered to shadow their child absent a tether.
Well, it hadn't worked before, right?
If you understand the 8th Amendment, you understand cruel and unusual punishment. You know, that could be cruel and unusual.
We'll discuss that in this next segment.
For a transcript, please send $6 to Geraldo Transcripts, care of Burrell's, P.O. Box 7, Livingston, New Jersey, 07039. Or call 1-800-777-TEXT.
Shocking verdict. Talking now to the mom and dad tethered to their 15-year-old delinquent. Yes.
Yes, Deborah, I would like to know, where's your daughter now?
She got committed to juvenile prison. She got 6 to 12 months.
We expected when we went back to court that she'd be put on house arrest and probation and the whole 9 yards like that. That's
Deborah,
what
let me
we're
ask you,
expecting.
you have heard Gary there, the dad, being pretty well condemned or criticized, not merely by the parents of the youngster who was killed, but also by our audience. You've heard the feelings of Lizzy Rivera toward, you know, the parents of Jonah. Don't you think that there is some argument to be made that there was poor parenting that led to Tonya's being so wild and crazy as to commit one juvenile offense after the other after the other?
No, not necessary. You know, Tonya was in with the wrong crowd. I feel that me and my husband was good parents. I spent a lot of time with Tonya. I taught her to roller skate. I used to take them swimming, both of my children. And when she hit her teenage years, it seems like this child just went crazy.
We had even gone as far to go to the Department of Juvenile Justice in where we live, and had them charged as incorrigible, you know, just to show them that we did have power over them, and that we could control.
And yet, once the child was tethered to mom, there were no more crimes.
Right. But the problem.
I hate to think that, as Kevin suggests, I would hate to think that that's the way we remedy this problem. Nancy, you're not suggesting this is a general
there's been no tethering in Atlanta that I know of, but if they had the alternative to send her to a juvenile home or be tethered, that was their decision. It's not appealable. However, they're saying that 2 months is too much, but excuse me, wasn't there a burglary, a grand larceny?
Yes, there was.
Hey, 2 months, that's pretty light.
Well, I'd like to explain the charges if I can before we... Those were her charges, or the facts were association with people who committed a burglary, association with people who committed a grand larceny. Grand larceny arose out of a situation where her boyfriend took the car and she just happened to be with her boyfriend.
She happened to be in the stolen car. Okay,
Well, yeah,
I still say 2 months are light, and they got a great deal.
You have to object to tethering. First of all, it stigmatizes the person as being uncontrollable.
They chose
and it subjects them to public ridicule.
Didn't they choose it?
And like I said, under the 8th Amendment, that is just cruel.
But
and
they
unusual
chose it,
punishment.
right?
They didn't choose it, was imposed upon them. Given the alternative, a caring parent is going to say, yes, let me take my child home.
Take a break. We'll be right back. Final thoughts. Right after shocking verdict.
If you have a comment about this show or have a show idea, you can call our interactive phone lines at 1-900-8-VIEWER. All calls 99 cents a minute.
First of all, in this our last segment, I want to say to Sabino and Bertha that you have our heartfelt sympathy. I can't imagine. I never want to be where you are. I hope that you and your other children can pick up the pieces of your life and go forward. Your loss is as profound as words can possibly express. To Gary and to Rachel, good luck to you. I understand there is an appeal. Nancy, if they can knock out the underlying felony just purely on a legal point of view, do you think the case sounds appealable?
In my opinion, if he had the gun on a school premises, the conviction will stand. If it is reversed, there will probably be a retrial. So I don't see any hopes for him getting out of confinement.
To Jennaphr Linn, our fantastic reporter from KGNS in Laredo, was there a racial component here?
I think there was a little bit.
The largely Latino community rallying to the parents of the lost girl rather than to the Anglo parents?
Absolutely. The second that Rachel got on the news and people could hear her voice and they couldn't hear the Latino accent, tables turned a little bit in the tide. Of course, with the Riveras, I mean, who wouldn't go with them? Their child had been lost.
Their child had been lost. Well, we hope justice is done. Child is gone. What I do hope, and come follow me, Donnie. Let me see Jonah here. Jonah, I'm telling you, man, whatever happens, however long you have to stay there, you have to come out of that place wanting to be somebody and to make something of yourself. Don't become bitter. Don't learn from the crooks in there. Look toward the future after you get out of there, whether it's a day or whatever time, because otherwise you'll be as lost to us as Lizzy Rivera is. So, Jonah, good luck.
Thanks.
To you. Okay, let me say goodbye. Thank all our guests. It would have been easier for us, Jennaphr, if he, or Gary, or Rachel. Jonah seems hard in that young heart.
He's
I
in
hope
shock.
that someone can get to him.
Anybody with any compassion at all, can you not understand what it would be like to point a gun at someone that you don't even have any problem with? And even if he did pull the trigger, thinking that there wasn't a bullet
See you next time,
and
ladies and gentlemen.
shooting
Bye-bye.
somebody.
Good luck to you.